This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod and happy Thanksgiving to everyone celebrating. This is a show for the week of November 21st, 2022. This week we're going to be discussing 7 a.m. strategies for the parks, our takes on Thanksgiving side dishes. And you might not care about any of that because we had massive changes last night with the ousting of Bob Chapek and Bob Iger coming back to the Walt Disney Company as CEO. This week's DBC engagement is one thing you have to do every time at Walt Disney World. And we had some excellent ideas and insight in people's vacations is what they have to do at Walt Disney World. And if you don't remember from last week, these are things that are not like, I always have to go on Slinky Dog or anything else like that. These are non-attraction, non-entertainment, like little tiny things that you have to do that are personal memories that in nostalgia that you have to do every week. But first, Phil, let's get to it. What's going on in our Disney World this week?
Yeah, and actually it was kind of funny that we pushed our recording back a day, and I guess it worked this week. I was looking at the timeline. I think the news might have broken in the middle of our recording, which would have been fun. But the big news, kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, is that CEO, or now former CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Bob Chapek, has been relieved of his duties, and instead the new boss, same as the old boss, Bob Iger, is back in charge. Signing a new contract to be CEO of the company again for 2 years. He signed on for 2 years to do that. So I guess the idea is take those 2 years to hopefully find a more permanent, better CEO to replace him going forward.
So here's interesting. So somebody in Discord, I think it was Castone, said, this is similar to like Tim Cook from Apple. Oh, not Tim Cook, excuse me. Steve Jobs from Apple that left and then came back as CEO. So it's not necessarily just a going around in circles and circles. So this could actually pose some positive changes to the Walt Disney World Company. We just don't know. There's lots of stuff and speculation running all over the place. First on, we have a bunch. We didn't know how to tackle this because there's so much kind of different things rather than just kind of reading.
And new things are still like breaking too. Like we're like updating our show doc like 2 minutes ago.
I've got Twitter open here just in case something else happens. But let's kind of start at the top. Bob Chapek leaves. He gets. He has been. It was filed with the SEC. He's been fired with no cause, which triggers something, and he leaves around $20 million and some cash and stock options and whatever. Do not feel bad for Bob Chapek. He's a very wealthy man. He had his time to shine, and he just wasn't up to the job. And because of that, like again. Conversation going on Discord right now, kind of filtering through all the Diz Twitter and all the different forums that are out there. Some of our members doing a good job kind of taking some of the big things and some insights from people that have worked from Disney or are currently working for Disney. And, they're saying that like all the things that we've been talking about with Bob Chapek mattered, right, Phil? It's like, all the things I've been saying, like I haven't been like a Chapek defender because I could see where he's coming from with some of these little statements. Like you shouldn't have said it that way, or he shouldn't have done it this way. But I could see what he was trying to do, right? But it's still none of them were still good decisions, and it's just like you add all those things up, and all of a sudden you get this, which is to me is how it's incredible how this happened. Like. Do you have basically the timeline of?
So from understanding of what's being reported is that on Friday afternoon, so let me just pull up the dates. It's the 21st now. So what was that? The Friday the 18th. Yep, is when Bob Iger was first approached by the board, and we know that referring to this as the rebellion was led at least in part by the CFO Christine McCarthy. And other board members, the head of the board, approached Bob on Friday. Then he agreed to it. And on Sunday, so 2 days later, yesterday, the 20th, is when Chapek was notified. And apparently, like a lot of people, nobody really knew about this. I was seeing it
It's
reported
unbelievable.
that for those of you who saw last night, there was a live show of Elton John on Disney Plus. They were using the streaming service to have his live concert, and Bob Chapek was supposed to introduce Elton John, but he got notified like right before it that no,
Ooh,
you're no longer this. And apparently, a lot of senior execs were in the audience, and were finding out like in the audience for the concert, like this is
unbelievable.
happening. So it's really crazy. Apparently, they did reach out to a few other people, such as Tom Skaggs and a couple others, but ultimately they went back. I guess rather than go to another unproven person, they went back to Bob Iger for this 2-year deal. So
What
yeah,
I mean, like Disney never moves fast with anything. Yet some of the other news that we have is Disney bought a giant cruise ship
yeah,
really quickly, and they also fired Bob Chapek. I mean, like I would never expect after giving him a new contract extension,
yep.
like
Only months ago, yeah,
you would think that they would have done something more back then. But Disney's numbers weren't bad, but they were, I guess,
and I think that's the big
suffering.
thing. I feel like all these other things obviously matter. They matter to the image of Disney. It mattered to the brand. It mattered to the fans. Whether it was how he handled the Scarlett Johansson situation, how he handled the "Don't Say Gay" bill, how he, just a lot of these interviews where he just comes off as, he said adults don't watch animation and things like that. Which even if some of the things he might have a point, the way he says them upsets people. I think he was always cushioned by the fact that he was delivering on the financials by pumping, building the subscribers for Disney Plus, which at the time analysts were excited about. It kind
Mhm.
of propped the stock up during the pandemic. But in the last few months, that's where it's taken a hit. The last quarter was a miss with the earnings, and you were just seeing people in the investment community turn on him. Obviously, the loudest voice, no pun intended, Jim Cramer on CNBC was going off on him, saying he needs to be ousted and stuff like that. And so I just think there was nothing left to save him. I don't know. This might be a weird analogy, but I know they said like in sports, like Lawrence Taylor could get away with a bunch of off the field things or like not showing up to practice because he delivered on the field. And I kind of
Right.
feel like as long as the financials were there, all right, maybe we don't like some of these things, but we'll stick with them. But once the financials are gone, all those other things mattered a lot more, and
I mean,
they had to
just
take
go.
action.
Well, just go back to look at all the popular or successful CEOs of Disney, all the way back to Walt. You need a visionary in that
Yeah,
chair, right? Obviously Walt himself, the ultimate visionary, but then you had Eisner that had a vision for the parks. When he spoke about what he wanted to do with the company, you always sense he had a plan and a vision of where he wanted to bring us. I mean, like Disney's constantly talking about being a company that's based off of storytelling.
yeah,
Chapek did not tell a story at all. I mean, go back to the last D23. We're sitting here going like, what is all of this
yeah.
nonsense? It was like blue sky or whatever. And there's a lot of other things. We'll probably talk about Josh D'Amaro in a little bit and what side of the coin he falls on. But Chapek basically he didn't do anything bad, right? Like from a top level point of view, right? He was following basically all the stuff that Iger put into play. Like you can't yell at him about park reservations because they were required and everybody loves them, or the company loves them, let's say. And people like to rag on park reservations. They're not a big hindrance for the vast majority
For
of
most
people that are
people,
in the
yeah,
park. Genie Plus was well in the works before Bob Chapek came into play. That was announced in what 2019 as a product, or was it earlier than that? I don't recall off the top
yeah.
of my head. So I mean, it was born during Iger's time. Iger has completely allowed the parks to degrade in many different ways over time, not adding capacity, adding big ticket attractions or replacing others with other things. So all this stuff that we are as park fans complaining about at this time, or have been complaining about over the last couple of years, have been, under Iger as well. Maybe
Hmm.
Chapek accelerated a lot of the deterioration of the parks, but he never offered a vision of like, because we don't know what's going to happen. Everybody's asking what's happening with the parks. There's nothing coming up after Tron. I mean, you could call Moana an addition, but no one's really going to care about a walk. It's going to look pretty for
Yeah,
sure, but people are going to Epcot to walk through Moana's, water stuff, right? So my largest point is Chapek did not provide a reason to be excited about Disney in the future. He
yeah,
bungled a lot of movie stuff, but Iger's going to come back. Maybe he had a chance to kind of reflect on what he has to do. Because what was, you mentioned Kramer. What was Kramer's point about Chapek coming from the parks? What was it? You have that handy?
Not
By
sure
any
if I have
chance?
the cheap, but he basically said, where was it? Like, I don't know if I have it, but he was basically saying you should have invested in the area where you came from and expanded the parks.
Which makes sense. I mean, all
Yeah.
the money from the company is coming from the parks at this point.
I
Or at
mean,
least
and we
the
saw
major
that, we see
profit
that with
centers.
other Orlando theme parks, right? Universal kept building during the pandemic. SeaWorld's putting up new coasters left and right, Busch Gardens, Tampa, and they're thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney's still struggling in some areas. But to go to your point about the vision, I think that's the big thing was you just didn't get that sense of awe and vision and storytelling from Chapek. That's what I really took away from his last interview with the Wall Street Journal was that he didn't really appreciate what Disney is, that it's a different company. It's not just any other company. Like he was like, people get annoyed when I want to run this like I would run any other company. And it's like, but it's not any other company,
Right.
like there's reasons I mean, and some of those are positives and negatives, but he didn't really embrace what made Disney Disney. And you can even tell in some of the letters that have already come from Bob Iger to the employee, the cast members and stuff like that, where he ends it with Disney holds a special place in the hearts of people around the globe thanks to you and your dedication to this company and its mission to bring joy to people through great storytelling and is an inspiration to me every day. Like you could never see Bob Chapek saying that. It's like it just shows the difference there. And so I think that's the best thing when I hear, a lot of people, see, oh, Bob Chapek's back. That means the dining plan's coming back tomorrow, right? And it's like, no, that's, but I think a lot of people just feel better about the PR spin and like how Bob Iger presents himself and all that sort of stuff. So it gives more positive vibe when you think about Disney.
It's a morale boost, right? And there's a
Yeah.
lot of little things like there was, and this is going to be the DBC engagement question this coming week over the holiday weekend. It's what can Iger do with the parks? We're going to say what can Iger do to improve the parks in the medium term, but in the short term, there's a couple things you can do to make park fans really love him and kind of forget a lot of this stuff that he's done over time. And that's like bring back trams and remove the hopping time restrictions, and park reservations aren't going. That's going to stay. Maybe they add more, maybe they kind of use it differently. I don't know, but like that's gonna stay. Dining plane's not coming back because it's a literal labor issue. I mean, like I can't get an ADR for anything right now with my trip in the next 2 weeks. I mean, I can't find even the place that's always available up until the last, like nothing's available, and it's back of the house in front of the house staff. So maybe Iger goes ahead because there's a union meeting for wages with a lot of with all the cast
Next
members down in
negotiation
Florida.
round with a bunch of the unions is next week. So, I mean,
So
that's one thing in the short term he could do is come to an agreement with them that, recognizes the cast members and gives them the raises they're looking for.
Well, I mean,
that would help morale.
I mean, like take some of the money from the parks that are generating record profits right now and put it back into the parks. And that should be first by paying the cast members a living wage, or as some people calling it, a thriving wage. Like if you're working full time for Disney, you should not be having 3 roommates at the age of 29 and when you're working there, and then pay the staff a competitive wage where like I'm going to go work for Disney and not rest on your laurels of like I'm working for Disney, I'll take 50 cents less an hour. That's nonsense, right? And that'll do a lot, which is getting everybody into the back of the park feeling good, like being proud to go work for Disney. You have a chance with all this positive spin. The stock's up an extra $10 today, or it peaked at was it $100?
Yeah, it got over 100
for a moment. But that being said, like you have an opportunity here to change morale around, get some, positive juice going into your 2-year tenure at this point before you have to groom your successor again. But again, I hate piling on a man, but I don't really too feel bad when he's making $20 million walking out the door. Chapek was never the guy that looked at Disney with the eyes of any kind of creative or emotional lens. It was a business. I mean, they called him, like all the nickel and diming. It was like, this was a perfect thing to do to earn profit out. I mean, he did his job. He tried to squeeze as much profit out of the business as possible. Unfortunately, you're squeezing profit off of a company that has been basically a century now of family-friendly magic and everything else, and all of a sudden that magic has a price tag attached. It always had a price tag, but it was always hidden and covered, and you're still happy to pay that money. Now people, I mean, like all the different things, I don't know if it smooths over. So let's talk about this now. So the future of all the different organizations, that's what IGER is doing. He fired Kareem Daniel, who was kind of the lead on
he was head of Disney Media and Entertainment. So there's a lot under him.
So basically, they took all the profit centers and put them under him. They kind of decentralized all this type of stuff. So they took a lot of decision-making power out of the people in charge of their divisions and areas type of thing. Now, the question is, a lot of people have been talking about Josh D'Amaro for years now as, rising from president of Disneyland to now in Chapek's old position as what is his exact title? I always forget.
He's head of Disney, president of Parks Experiences and
Merchandise. It's like basically
consumer
products.
Consumer products.
So now here's the thing. We've got two different questions that we have to ask ourselves. Is Josh D'Amaro truly a Disney visionary? I mean, a lot of people love him. He's a great politician. He's smooth in front of people. He knows how to make people feel warm and fuzzy. Is that just a politician, or does he truly have that feeling? While Iger has been an excellent politician his whole career as CEO of Disney, I think he truly cared for the creative aspect of things.
Yes.
He cared for more than just squeezing money out of everything. Is Josh D'Amaro the same way? He's like 50-50 right now as far as people want him or want him to see him gone.
Yeah. I think some people, people still like him, but I think more and more people were saying like, he's part of the problem with what's going on in the parks too. Now, how much of it was he forced to do? How much of it, I think a politician is a good word. Like he spins things well and kind of does what he needs to do to advance his own career and stuff. But that doesn't mean he can't do that while also recognizing, the creative folks and putting them forward and stuff like that. So I think it could work out, but we'll also see what happens because, there's a lot of reports that he could be in line for it. Or
being CEO in 2 years.
Yeah, being CEO in 2 years. Or, New York Times is also saying they think they're going to go outside. So what is, if Josh gets passed over again, is he going to stay? So he could be, he might go somewhere else too if that's what's best for his career. So
I don't know if he considered pass over because he was nowhere near ready to be CEO.
No, I guess I shouldn't say again, but if the plan is, after these 2 years plan that he's not the guy, and they bring in someone from the outside, and now he's saying, well, am I going to wait another 10 years or whatever, or am I going to go somewhere else?
No, that's fair. That's fair. What's going to be interesting to see if Iger gives Josh the freedom to lead his division, right?
Yeah.
So any of the little things to change at the parks we're going to know immediately within the next week or two how the company has been organized, right? Like where the power structures are, what are the changes because that's going to be noted because that's Wall Street wants to know how that's happening, right?
Yeah.
And one of the largest profit centers is those parks. So they're going to be very interested in seeing how those parks operate. Wall Street Journal, I think you had in here, right? That's one of our normal news items, reporting on ride stoppage at Disney. This is a good news week without the Chapek.
I know,
by the way, right? That's a shame. But like Wall Street Journal's writing about there's over like the last month and a half. I mean, everybody's been crying foul about the state that the parks at Disney cast members are, Disney fans are, but now it's hitting more of a broader audience about rides breaking down, maintenance, crowds, lines, nickel and diming has come up a bunch of different articles. So one of those things is like, okay, so there's a lot you could do to fix this. Is there an effort going to be to do this, right? And I guarantee you, by the next year at D23 or whatever they call the off year,
Destination D23 will be next year. Yeah,
there's going to be an outline for the future of the parks, and if there isn't, they're going to be in big trouble. I think, honestly. So we'll see. I mean, this is going to be Josh's time to shine because when it was painful watching him on stage.
Oh yeah,
a couple months ago, and I think I don't think he wanted to be there, and I don't think he was agreeing with anything that he was putting on. He had to put on a nice face, but you could tell from the body language and the way he was introducing things that he probably wanted it. I mean, like there's rumors that he never wanted to have a paid fast pass system at the time and stuff like that. I don't know if those are just rumors about him. I mean, there's ways for rumors to get to make you look good in this very public spat at the company. The company needs somebody at the helm that could stabilize everything, get everything back, and Disney's gonna have to start giving away things to kind of correct their reputation a little bit, or at least change that arc down.
I posted that, I think one of the big Twitter sites was saying, do you think IGER's better than Chapek? And I was like, well, or like, is there no difference? And I was like, well, it's not that I think IGER's necessarily that much better, but the fact that the board felt the need to step in and say, this is not the right direction for this company long term, we have to do something. I think that action is a positive. And now we'll see where they go from there. Like you said, a couple of years to get things straight and get morale back and get a direction for the company and a vision for the company, and hopefully it'll take off from there.
Yeah, one of the last things I want to mention is while IGER and Chapek are not, from us as a consumer, not many major things have changed. I mean, we still got good movies, we got some good content. Our parks experience is probably a little bit worse, but does the future? Gosh, how could I say this? How does the future change? I mean, it's still going to be more of the same, or is there actually going to be physical change that we can actually see? So we'll see. I don't know. I don't expect anything from the parks area to change. While he's saying that there's a lot of things are going to be rapidly changing. Well, change them faster. I'm going to be there in 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Please.
So we'll see. I mean, I think a big thing that I've heard a lot of griping from some CMs, or something that's really bringing them down, is just like maintenance in the park and just sort of all that magic. I think that's something that they, it's not going to change tomorrow, but in the short term could be changed, and that does get to one of our other stories. So
before you go on, the one thing I meant to say before, and I lost my train of thought, it was that I think a lot of the damage, quote unquote damage, or ill feelings around Chapek were felt more internally in the company by the people in creative and how people reported, and he just didn't like working under the new structure and whatever he was doing and where money was coming from and stuff like that. I think people did not like working in the workplaces where
I think that was something that was
for the company.
That was pretty, it stood out to me how many people that have current connections to the company were like jumping up and down and happy. I shared a tweet that Josh Gad, voice of Olaf, was like, yes, this is the best news. I'm so happy. I'm like, you're like still connected to the company. Dang. Like you probably talked to Bob Chapek. And another thing that struck me, which I think is points to your, like the right direction and kind of the storytelling and putting more emphasis on the creative folks, was there was a pretty senior Imagineer shared that Bob Chapek never came by to introduce himself to the Imagineers. Whereas he said every other CEO came by, not that they were like there all the time, but got, asked him about their families, wanted to get to know them and stuff like that. And Chapek never even introduced themselves. So I think that's, things like that are more telling than anything else. Yeah. So at least we have that back, and hopefully, they realized, obviously there were some things that Chapek brought to the table. Some of those things probably really helped during the pandemic, but we're past that now. And hopefully they realize the things that didn't work with him as CEO of Disney, not just a CEO, and they know what to look for in 2 years.
Yep. Absolutely. I anything else right now is going to be speculation and beating around the bush and repeating ourselves. So I think we're gonna move on. We've hit the Chapek discussion for 23 minutes. It's half the show is over. But other things that are going on in our Disney World, Phil. We've got ticket prices.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny seeing all these news items in light of now that they made this change, where some of these things feel like, the type of change that happened under Bob Chapek. But yeah, so Disney has raised daily ticket prices and also introduced park-specific pricing. So rather than the same park on, obviously on each day, pricing had varied, with Christmas Day being more than some random Tuesday, but they were the same in each of the parks. Now they will range, with Magic Kingdom going from $124 to $189, which I understand that's only going to be for like the week between Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that. But still, $189 to get into the Magic Kingdom for one day, whereas something like Animal Kingdom will still keep the low price of $109 up to $159. One other thing that comes with this, again, this is only if you're buying that single ticket day, is that if you say I'm buying a ticket for Magic Kingdom on this date, they will automatically make a park reservation for you, so you don't have to do that as a separate step.
Which is nice of them.
Yep. And one other thing I had happened to tweet out is like, well, I wonder if the next step could be park specific Genie Plus pricing. And I did get a message back from a little birdie. I don't think it's public, so I'm not going to totally release the source, but it said, yeah, keep this tweet bookmarked because something like that's going to happen, which in some ways makes sense, where it clearly brings a lot more value in something like Magic Kingdom than Animal Kingdom. So I think people would be willing to pay a little more for Magic Kingdom and be willing to buy it, but at a lower price for Animal Kingdom for Genie Plus. But we shall see.
Yep. A couple things on this. This has happened before, right? So there have been single day tickets that have been variable depending on the park. So this is not something.
Yeah, I think it was in the past. Magic Kingdom used to be like $5 more than the other parks each day, or something like that.
So this is kind of holding within those standards. Stat from the Disney Dish with Lentesta: about 10% of the tickets are single day tickets. So this is not massively impacting your trip, because most people that go down there buy ticket packages, as they get cheaper the more that you buy. So this is something that's not like, and everybody that has an upcoming trip or planning a trip, don't panic, right? This is not really going to impact you almost at all. So
but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure more is coming, but
yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I would love a variable Genie Plus, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind paying extra money for Magic Kingdom where it's needed, and I wouldn't mind paying a very cheap price for like Epcot, but I'm not paying $20+ for Epcot. Maybe I'll pay like $5 to $10.
We saw actually today, I guess, and I'll probably keep going up because we are in Thanksgiving week. It reached a new high of $29 for Genie Plus today. So, which again, that's probably still worth it during a crowded week at Magic Kingdom. A little tougher to justify it at Epcot or Animal Kingdom. So.
I don't know, man. That's like what, $150 for my family to get that. It's basically an extra ticket.
Yeah. Well, glad I got mine locked in at the $15.
$15, yeah. It's the way to do it.
So the next story, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the Wall Street Journal has a report out on ride stoppages at Disney and how much they go down and how it's been increasing over the years. This is something that Touring Plans touches on a lot. Len Testa speaks about this a lot. He has a lot of stats. And really, when you think about it, when you look at something like Rise of the Resistance goes down like an average of 90 minutes a day, and like Tower Terror is only running one side, and Mickey Minnie's goes down, and So when you think like there's not that many rides to begin with at Hollywood Studios, and then if all those rides down, that's really tough. And then you think when it comes back up, well, now they have to get all the people who have either individual Lightning lanes or Genie Pluses for it through first, which really backs up the standby line. So it just creates a negative scenario when these rides go by, which in some ways probably just prompts them, promotes people getting Genie Plus and individual Lightning lanes. One tip I give to everybody who says, I've had a lot of people say, we want to go to Disney, we want to do all the Star Wars stuff. And I kind of say, I hate to say spend more money, but if you really want to do it, suck it up and buy an individual Lightning lane for rides, not just to skip the line, but because of this reason, that if it goes down, you get to go, they're going to deal with you first because you have the individual Lightning lane. So for sure. Had some stats in there about average monthly ride stoppages rose 58% at Disneyland between 2018 and 2022. Walt Disney World, it was at 42%. That was one thing that was interesting, was actually ride stoppages are higher at Disneyland than Walt Disney World, but I think there's just so many more rides per park, you don't notice it quite as much as like when a big ride goes down at like Hollywood Studios. And so at Walt Disney World, Rise of the Resistance is down on average 118 minutes a day, which is actually up from 104 minutes in 2020. So that's not a good trend that it's like down more,
He's figured this stuff out by now.
You'd hope, and that's what I touched on before, is that they're just not putting the money into maintenance. It's just keep it going, bare minimum. If it goes down, it goes down. But and hopefully that's something that'll change, because people don't mind paying a premium for Disney, but they want a premium experience. And these big rides going down for like 2 hours a day is not a premium experience.
No. So. I mean, especially I've seen videos of people at either Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom where it is packed. Like, I don't want to be in that park at all when it looks like that.
Yeah.
And if I get my, okay, maybe I'm not spending 8 hours in this park. Maybe I'm spending 4 before I bounce because it's just too much. I want to get on something while I'm there, right? And it just, everybody looks miserable in some of those shots, which is unfortunate. Maybe you should use that reservation system, keep people out, and force them to go to Animal Kingdom that day. Thoughts?
Or like we've talked about, like, oh wait, 2 big rides are down. Maybe push out a notification. Hey, if you don't have hoppers, we'll let you hop to Epcot or something like that because we got 2 major rides down or something. You know, there's things they can do, right?
Like, hey, here's a free hopper. Go to Epcot, right?
Yeah.
And, use the system you have to push people around. Like, you've been manipulating standby line times to get people at different parts of the park to go to Tomorrowland versus Fantasyland. Force people to go to other parks. Like, here's a free. Like, I did not buy hoppers for my upcoming trip. I mean, this was just in our December thread for people going in December. People are talking about what they're hopping. I'm not buying hoppers for my family. I mean, I'm going for longer times.
Yeah.
You're doing it for shorter times.
If we were more than 3 days, we wouldn't have gotten it either. It's
right. So we have time to go 2 parks twice in our trip, right? So 6 park days. If I'm in like Magic Kingdom and it's like packed and I got something that buzzed, hey, why don't you head over to Animal Kingdom? You can go over for free. Like, free hopper. I mean, I would seriously consider doing that. Like, that's really great. Or if they say, hey, here's a free individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage. Would you like to go to Animal Kingdom? Like, that's even a further incentive. Or like, you can send out coupons, like, give me a free Mickey pretzel if I go to Animal Kingdom right now. Like, that gets me out of the park. And I'm not riding rides at the time it takes me to leave the park, drive to get on a bus to the park, all that other type of stuff. Now, granted, they have to start offering transportation from park to park versus park to, but I think you can easily solve that. I don't know.
So,
we're way off topic.
We're way off topic, but I think there are things that they can do, and hopefully that's the type of thing they do, which is more using the carrot versus the stick, I guess.
Yes.
So next topic, which I don't think we'll spend too much time on. This was something I put in before there was a lot of news items, but I did want to mention about the 2022 Epcot International Festival of the Holidays. Disney has finally released the full menus. This starts on the 25th, so it's nice to see the full menus for all the various booths and kitchen tables they have out there.
And like 6 days ago, we were like, where is this? We want it, right? And then it's like, what? Epcot has Chapek? Who? What?
I know.
It gets drowned out by everything.
Yeah, this is something and obviously for those of us with trips coming up, this is something we were really focusing on. I did want to use this time just to shout out, there's an app called the WDW Food and Wine app that you can download, and it has all the festivals, not just food and wine. So you can then switch to International Festival of the Holidays, and it has all the tables. It has a map where everything's located. It has all the menus, and you can go in and kind of add it to your wish list. So it'll star everything that you want to try, and you can kind of keep track of that. So I spent time.
For Epcot?
So it's only for the Epcot festivals, but it's all the different festivals throughout the year. So I went through that, and I quickly went through, here's the things I want to try. And then I filtered it. I was like, oh, that's 22 different things. So
I was going to say, you start everything accidentally.
And the sad thing is that was like 10% of the things. There's so many things. And then my wife went through, and of course she has like 27 things, and they're all different. So I'm like, okay, apparently we're going to like 50
things times, let's see, I don't know, $6 a head. I mean,
you're
in for an expensive trip, my friend.
Yeah. So, but I think we'll go through and kind of figure out, well, what are the must-dos, go through the kids, and then like kind of also pick up, well, what are the booths that there's like 2 or 3 things we want at, so we don't have to wait as many lines. But
that makes
just
sense.
Thought I would shout out that app for people that haven't seen it before. It's really useful, I think.
I did not know about that, so I'll definitely check that out.
And our last news item that Jason mentioned before is that Disney did announce that they purchased a partially built giant cruise ship. For those of you who hadn't seen about this, there was a cruise ship that was being built by a different company, being built in Germany, but it was going to service the Asian markets. It's called Global Dreams. And originally it was going to hold over 9,000 guests. Disney has purchased it. They have said they will retrofit it for the Western market. So they estimated it'll have about 6,000 guests and 2,300 crew. And just to give you some comparison, the Disney Wish holds about 4,000 guests. So there's about 50% more than the Disney Wish. So it is a big ship. So we'll see. It's just an interesting thing that they didn't build it from the ground up, that they're kind of buying the ship, kind of pennies on the dollar. It was about, I think about 3/4 of the way done. And they'll retrofit it, and we'll see what happens. But it's a different strategy for Disney. So again, this felt like something like, is this Chapek trying to buy something on the cheap, or is this really something that kind of fits their strategy of, will they be able to kind of give that full Disney experience on?
Well, they're looking to get their cruise ship line up, right? You've got the Wish that came out, and you got 2 more ships that are coming up over the next 3 years.
And this is not replacing one of those. They'll still this is supposed to be ready by 2025 that is also when I believe the 7th ship will come out, the seventh new ship, and then they will still have another in 2028, I believe. So within about 6 years, they'll double the size of their fleet. So
I mean, they have high demand for the cruise line.
oh yeah,
So
for sure.
this one's going overseas, so they'll have an overseas market for it. So we'll see how it goes. It should be interesting. I'm not a big cruiser, so I mean I don't really have much to add other than the engineering is really cool.
Oh yeah, when you see them being built and stuff, it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And that's it for news. Leading into our takes, a little different our takes. We're steering away from Disney specifically, but given that it's Thanksgiving week, I thought we could do our takes on Thanksgiving side dishes. Which ones do we think are overrated, properly rated, or underrated?
This one was interesting. I like how we're taking a break from the Disney stuff with the overload of the news that we just went through. I think this week, Phil, what we'll do is we'll go through our whole list together. So I will do my overrated, properly rated, underrated, and then you go through.
Sounds good.
Because mine has to be done that way because that's the way. My first one that's overrated is gravy. I don't know if that's a side dish, but I took it from your idea. Have it on your list also. I think it's overrated. I don't use turkey. I mean, granted, I know gravy's good if you have a really dry turkey, but I've mastered the art of cooking my own turkey. Knock on wood, I'm not like jinxing myself coming up. But a properly cooked turkey is moist enough, I think, to have a little bit of salt and pepper on it, and it's good to go. Gravy to me is just kind of like, why are you adding flavor to something that should be juicy and flavorful? Also, my properly rated side dish is stuffing. Everybody has it. It's different in different parts of the country. I mean, I know down in Texas they do some kind of weird. Sorry, I don't want to call your side dishes weird down.
Different.
But it's kind of a rice type thing versus a bread type thing. But I think stuffing in any form is a staple of a Thanksgiving dinner, and I think it's properly rated. Everybody loves it. Underrated is sausage in stuffing, right? So I think a lot of people make their stuffing. It's just bread cubes or with like celery or what have, like, stovetop stuffing style stuffing. Growing up, my aunt always put like Italian sausage in it, and it just added such an amazing flavor. And I've never seen anybody else do it. Not that I'm going to a lot of people's things, but I don't want to hear anybody talking about it. So I think that adding, maybe not sausage specifically, but adding a meat or something that's different to the stuffing kind of adds a really cool flavor to it. So those are my underrated, properly rated, and underrated Thanksgiving side dishes.
All right. And for my list, my overrated is sweet potato casserole. I think there's just so many better side dishes than that. And with the marshmallows and stuff on top, it just gets too sweet. I know it's kind of, I guess, appealing to kids and stuff like that they get to have like marshmallows with their dinner. But I feel like everybody feels like they have to have it because it's just such a Thanksgiving staple. But I think it's not great.
I never did casseroles on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Right. So to me, when I see a casserole, I'm like, that's different. And like green bean casseroles or whatever you might be having. I've always been, I guess, is it a traditionalist? I don't know. It's tradition for my family. It's all basic.
Well, everybody has their own traditions for sure.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely.
So my properly rated is actually gravy. And in my mind, though, it's not just for the turkey it's actually more important for the other things beyond the turkey. To me, it's the glue that holds the whole plate together.
Okay.
That I pour it over my stuffing, onto my mashed potatoes, onto my turkey, onto my roll, like everything. And so I think that's how a lot of people view the gravy, is that they have all these different things on their plate and the gravy kind of keeps it all together and unified. So to me, that's why it's properly rated.
Side question. Rolls on Thanksgiving, do they have to be freshly baked, or are you buying like a Pillsbury dough instant roll?
We buy. So when we do it, rolls, we usually always have crescent rolls, the Pillsbury crescent rolls, because the kids eat that. Sometimes my wife will make like fresh drop biscuits and stuff like that too. More often than not, we got enough going on that the rolls will be pre-made.
I've grown up spoiled. My father never cooked Thanksgiving because we always went to other family for Thanksgiving, traditionally his sisters. And then he always makes the rolls. That was his thing. He made a roll and the dessert the night before. So I always had fresh baked rolls for Christmas and Thanksgiving dinner. Since then, the tradition kind of fell, and I did the Pillsbury dough kind of. I've got too
Yeah.
much stuff going. This is what you get. But the last couple of years, I've been making rolls again for Thanksgiving dinner. So that's what I'm going to be doing Wednesday night. I'm just curious what people's experiences are with that. There's nothing wrong. The Pillsbury dough, they're very good. They're very tasty. Nothing wrong with them.
And then my underrating, I actually first just put stuffing there because I feel like everyone kind of pushes stuffing to the side and kind of takes it for granted. But one thing I put in there is I think, especially since you mentioned about sausage stuffing, I really like cornbread stuffing. I think that adds a little bit of an extra kind of flavor note to it. But I think just in general, sometimes stuffing doesn't get the respect it deserves.
I will literally sit there with a giant pail of stuffing and eat that for like 48 hours straight.
Yeah, for sure.
If like I make so much food on Thanksgiving now that like I need to have the leftovers, right? Like leftovers is a staple for the rest of the weekend. If somebody accidentally throws away my stuffing, or when I offer them to, if we have guests, we're like, here, take some, leftovers home so you can eat some tomorrow, and you take too much of the stuffing away with them, I also get angry, and they're never invited to my home ever again.
I saw a Facebook video today where somebody was using the Thanksgiving leftovers, and they made a pot pie, but they used the stuffing to make like the crust of the pie.
Ooh. That is a very good idea. We do traditionally, we buy a very good rye bread.
Okay.
And we make Thanksgiving sandwiches. So turkey, cranberry, stuffing, mayo, salt, pepper.
Those are excellent.
My favorite sandwich of all time.
Absolutely. And so that'll do it for our takes. Reminder of our social media accounts on Twitter for as long as it's around. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. We're all at the DBC Pod. And of course, our Discord server, where there's been lots of chatter over the last day or so.
Get in.
No update to the Disney Comeback Index. I don't know if Matt gave a score for Bob Iger coming back, but
ooh, well, that's interesting. All right, we have to talk to him about it. He's online right now.
And then a shout out to a new YouTube subscriber, Eric Colcord. Thanks for subscribing. Tell your friends.
Right. Yeah, hey, if you're out there watching, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you like. I'm not going to tell you to hit that notification bell because that would be silly, because the thing would always ring at 8:00 on Monday or Tuesday mornings. Anyway, one thing I want to say about Discord, I'm going to promote Discord a little bit more. Discord is great. Our community is excellent. We have great discussions, great source of information. I was going to say great source for resources. Doesn't make any sense. But we do have a lot of people that have either work for Disney or have some inside knowledge, or there's people that just are always online looking for what people are posting on different corners of the internet where that are good sources of information. So if you're not tied into like WDW Magic and know how to kind of filter through all the noise and find the people that know things on there, or different parts of Twitter or anywhere else, that all gets filtered onto Discord. So you don't have to go and spend 5 hours online arguing and yelling about stuff about Disney. You can come to Discord and kind of get the highlights of everything, and usually there's a link you can dive deeper. So it's a great source for days like this. There's lots of changes coming. It's going to hit Discord first before you find out about it anywhere else. So unless you know where to look, and obviously you're for everybody else. So that being said, our today's topic is not about the change of CEO at the Disney company, which it could have been. This is more present for our upcoming trips in 2 weeks. The topic is 7 a.m. strategies for touring the parks. So these are tips on, everybody's way of touring the parks is going to be different, right? So there's not one best way how to do things, even though I'm going to say this is the best way to do things. There's a lot of things that, like, if you don't care about going on every single ride, obviously these strategies don't matter. Your strategy is having a nice leisurely breakfast and make your way up Main Street and you're having a good time. It's a perfectly good way. So no one get out of bed in shape when I say this is the best way. Your way is always the best way, but maybe you could take some tips from us and maybe alter things a little bit better, and maybe learn a thing or two if you've never heard about it before. So is that a big enough disclaimer, Phil? Should we say?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I put this in here because I need tips. Like, I want to know, so I've been working on my spreadsheet for my trip, and I added kind of a row for every day of 7 a.m. What's the plan? Because I need to know, like, what am I trying to do for Genie Plus? What does my wife try to do for virtual, whatever it is, kind of what's our strategy to try to maximize that start to our day to get us off on the right foot. So,
okay. So you're asking the question, So you want my opinion on each park and what you want?
Yeah, I mean, I
right?
guess here's what I'm thinking, and you can kind of maybe let me know if you agree with this or not, as you've had a little more experience
All
than
right,
me.
let's do park by park.
Okay.
Right, we'll do it for each one.
Yep.
Separately.
So our first day is we're starting at Magic Kingdom, and we'll be hopping to Epcot later. So my thought is with all these things is like, what are our priorities? Like, I want to make sure we get on those things. And so for us this trip, we've never done the Jingle Cruise version of the Jungle Cruise, and I know that line can build. So my thought is that's our priority for getting a Genie Plus for that. And then depending on how we're feeling, we might see if we need to early, or else we might get an individual lightning lane for Cosmic Rewind for after we hop. But our plan is to do the Genie Plus for Jingle Cruise, and then we'll probably rope drop, probably Peter Pan, and then wait for the rope drop, the second rope drop that goes into like Adventureland and Frontierland, and kind of do that part. So that's our thought. I don't know, what would you be your suggestion for Genie Plus at Magic Kingdom?
So you got to hop in there, right?
Yeah.
So in order to utilize Genie Plus, so in Magic Kingdom, as we all know, Genie Plus is best used as with a flow strategy going from ride to ride. So that's what you're going to want to do. So you have to determine when you're hopping to Epcot. Are you hopping directly at 2:00? Do you have meal plans that kind of
So
stuck in the middle of the day?
we have our beer garden candlelight processional package is at 5:35. So our plan was, this is our main Magic Kingdom day. So our plan is to stay until about say 4.
Okay, and then you're going to do the monorail over.
Yeah, exactly.
To get over there, right? Okay, so until 4:00. You're definitely right. You got to rope drop one of the main attractions. You could potentially do rope drop strategy Tomorrowland and knock out every ride in Tomorrowland right off the bat, but then you're probably never getting on Peter Pan unless you want to wait.
Right. So I think that's a question I need to talk with my family. Like, what's more important, say Peter Pan, and then we're closer to Frontierland, or do we want to do like Space Mountain and Buzz and stuff like that?
So what I would do is, depending on what your priorities are, I would definitely 7 a.m. Lightning Lane Jungle Cruise, and try to get that for when is the park open that day? Is that an 8:00 day or 8:30 day, or is that a 9:00 day?
So it's 9:00 open, 8:30 early entry.
And that's probably the same day I'm going, right? That's
Saturday the
10th,
10th. Yeah.
Right. Yep. So we got 9 to 10 day. I would try to get Jungle Cruise for 9:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
I would then early morning entry, rope drop, Peter Pan, and then try to peek at. Well, Mine Train's going to be completely sold at that point. Like either pay for it or just skip it. I don't think it's worth an individual late time unless it's your favorite ride or you've never been on it or you haven't been on it in a while.
Yeah, we've done that a bunch, so I feel like it's a lower priority for us.
Yep. So I would definitely do Jungle Cruise, but go from Peter Pan, and then from Peter Pan, from my experience, and granted this was in July with lower crowds, but get into Peter Pan, it's going to be a long line waiting for it. You're going to be pushing the crowds through, but go through it and then immediately go to Splash and see if you can get online for Splash.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that was my plan, was to go that direction, because I know if we get off early enough, the rope won't be open yet there, but was either to go to Splash or do Haunted Mansion on the way.
So it depends on how adventurous you are. So the lines bulk up right at the entrance of Fantasyland. It is a mad dash. It's terrible. So if you want to be like power tour, like get there early, so you're one of the first people in front of the rope, bolt to Peter Pan so you can get in and out of it fairly quickly. And then I don't think Splash is going to be open at that point, but you want to get over there and get ready for it again for the next rope drop.
I know.
And then try to get on Splash, because with Jingle Cruise, if you get at 9:00, you got the hour, plus you got about a 15 to 20 minute cushion after that time is expired.
Right.
Get there. So I would try to get that done. And as soon as you get done with Jungle Cruise, you tap into it. If you got into Splash or Thunder Mountain, that's one off your list. Try to get Splash or Thunder Mountain, which we haven't done. And then I would make your way through the classics by doing Haunted Mansion or Pirates. So they'd be relatively low wait times at that point. Haunted Mansion is going to be longer than Pirates at that point, I believe, for the most part. And then you make your way back around the park. So you do any of the dark ride stuff at Fantasyland, and then you finish your day in Tomorrowland, I think, by 4. And you just at that point, there's no strategy after that first 45 minutes, right?
Yeah. So I
You-
think
You're
after
gonna
that, like you said, after we tap in for Jingle Cruise, hopefully that's early enough. If not, the 120-minute rule is we see what we can get fast passes for or lightning lanes and just kind of roll for the next couple hours. And
what I would do is if we are not, because you're not doing any virtual queue stuff at 7 a.m. And it's tough to do this. I would shoot for Jungle Cruise and try to get, if you get anything over 10 o'clock at the 7:10 mark, I would attempt to refresh with you and your wife doing it to try to get Splash Mountain first thing in the morning. That's what I would do at the 7:10 mark. And if you don't remember, everybody out there, a bunch of lightning lanes get put back into the system at 7:10 because of the way the software works.
yeah,
It's a checkout process. If no one's purchased them or quote unquote clicked on a button to purchase them, they go back into the thing at about 7:10. So do that, and then because you want to get Splash, because Splash and Jungle Cruise are going to be the two highest ones. Peter Pan also, but if you're rope dropping it, you can mark that off your list.
right.
And then I think the third least mountain is Space Mountain as far as availability. Space Mountain's usually available later in the day. I'm trying to find the thrill data as we look at this.
Yeah, and that was something I put in the show notes was leverage Thrill Data for those of you not familiar with it. It's a great website, has data for theme parks around the world, but obviously we're using it mostly for the Disney parks. But it has tons of it just records when lightning lanes, how quickly they get taken, what's your return time when you get them there, how quickly individual lightning lanes, virtual queues. I'm speed talking through this a little bit because there's so much information, but I can't recommend it enough for when you're thinking about, well, I'm planning on doing X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, Thrill Data will show you historically if that's even possible or
So
if
if
all
you
those
go
things are gone.
Yeah, if you go to the way to use these charts, right? Because it's a lot of data. It
Yeah.
looks like a lot of spreadsheets and it can be very overbearing to people that are doing it. So click on each individual park. So I'm looking at Magic Kingdom. I click on Magic Kingdom. Is a chart for average wait times. Then you scroll down. There's the average wait time data per attraction. Then you scroll down further anymore. And there's lightning lane availability data. And basically what that means is the more green you have, the more early return times that are available upon clicking on it. So if you look at things like Peter Pan's flight, at roughly the 7:15 mark, your return time for Peter Pan's flight is 4:40 in the afternoon, right? You do not want to do that
Right.
because you are now basically, if you could get a 9 a.m., you could get your second lightning lane as soon as you get into that. So you can book your second lightning lane at 9:05, essentially, basically. If you have to wait, your next lightning lane is at 11, and a lot of that availability is gone. So you want to get that 9 a.m. close to 9 a.m. as possible at the Magic Kingdom. So Peter Pan is not worth it whatsoever. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is usually sold out pretty quickly. The next biggest one is the Jungle Cruise, right? So you Jungle Cruise is not open at 9 o'clock or at Rope Drop, excuse me, for early entry. And giving an example, at 7 o'clock, the average return time is 9:35. It's already pushing it. And then at 9:05, it's 4:45 already. Jungle
Right.
Cruise imperative to get because
Yep.
they're not running a lot of boats and it's going to be busy because it's the only overlay in the park that people are excited about. So your strategy is correct, and we've been talking about Magic Kingdom for about an hour now. So for the next
All right, day two. So day two is we're starting at Animal Kingdom and then hopping to Disney's Hollywood Studios. My plan there is to, and I need to figure out which order I want to do these for, is that I want to get an individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage and a Genie Plus for the Navi River. And then we're planning to rope drop Everest.
Hey, you're following my plan.
Yeah. So that's the plan. The thing we don't have an ADR that day, but we do have the tour with up close with rhinos at 11 a.m. So that's the one thing we kind of have to plan around.
Mm-hmm.
And we were thinking of doing lunch at Satuli. So I'm kind of hoping the Genie Plus return time and the individual lightning lanes can kind of be in that lunchtime-ish thing that we could do that after we do our tour.
That's
and then
Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday. And
we're never seeing each other, are we? We've got these plans going, and we're going to be crisscrossing. Like,
I know.
So if I disrupt Phil's spreadsheet, yeah. he's like, I'm not doing this podcast anymore. Yeah. I'm done with you. And
so my hope is to do Everest, like I said, maybe a couple times. Then do
we're going to be on the same train, buddy. I mean,
that'd be awesome.
That's our plan. Is basically, you buy. This is the only park where I might be considering Flight of Passage, but I'm sitting there all day.
Yeah.
So I might do Flight of Passage late in the day and just get on the line towards the end because I want to be in that part of the park at night anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, since if you're hopping or not staying there, or you're going to be leaving, Individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage is definitely the key. Navi River Journey is another long line. And then everybody goes to Pandora at Rope Drop.
Right.
Just go to the right, head over to Expedition Everest. And assuming the day is not like it's opening at 7:30 a.m. They just announced parking
So
hours.
I was going to
extension for this.
mention that I'm a little worried about this. So it's an 8 a.m. opening with 7:30 early entry. I'm like, well, where are we even going to be at 7 a.m. when we need to do all this? Are we going to be at the bus stop? Are we going to be on the bus? Are we going to be at the entry? So
You got to figure that out.
yeah. So I mean,
So-
and we're a little dependent on when the bus comes. So it's like,
Well, you are at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So
yeah. So we'll be down early enough. Hopefully, we can get a bus and be kind of like at the gates by 7 or whatever, and we'll doing it there. But I guess we'll see.
we tapped in when we were again in July. When we tapped in, it was like 7:40 or so, right? So we did
Mhm.
exactly at 7:30. We were able to walk over to Expedition Everest and ride it
Yeah.
4 times without stopping. Right,
Yeah.
like literally, you walked off and you didn't stop walking until you sat. Again, right? We did it 4 times in a row. It was awesome, and we're planning on doing the same strategy.
Yep.
Maybe not purchasing individual lightning lanes, depending on the cost. Right, we're going to kind of track that a little bit before
Yep.
we go. So that's key, and you'll be able to be done with the park by noon to kind of
Yep.
go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So, and then depending on how we're doing, if we got enough done, we're thinking we might do the 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Festival of the Lion King show and then hop over to Hollywood Studios. For there, the one priority we have is Mickey and Minnie's. So I am going to be watching like when do I need to stack my Genie Plus for that.
So-
kind of.
I would recommend because there's new rules for well, actually, there's the stacking rules haven't really changed if you're stacking for times that you're going to be there.
Yeah.
This is where, because you're hopping every day, this is where your project manager vibe is going to
Yep.
get in, right? Especially for your Epcot day is not going to be important because your all the lightning lanes are going to be gone for Frozen, Remy's.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
if
doesn't
there
make a
happens to be one super available and we can make it for like Living with the Land because it's got the holiday overlay or something, we might do that. But we're really not. We have a whole nother Epcot day, so I'm not worried about doing
What
much
I
there
would
that
do
day.
is I would just start stacking Epcot at like whatever 2:00 and just start stacking random stuff. So you have it. If you use it,
Yeah.
you use it. If not, you don't.
Yeah.
Whatever. You just for a second. For Hollywood Studios, I think you can get Mickey Minis. Do they have the data up here? I'm scrolling down. Mickey Minis Runaway Railway is, you're getting. So you're hopping over to about what time? Like 4:00 in the afternoon? That's your
Probably
target?
that maybe a little earlier, like 3 or 4.
Okay, so as of today, it's going to be different because it's not going to be as
Yep.
busy as Falcons Run. So your return times are available at 2:30, starting at 10:30. So you might be able to, if you really want it, if that's a priority, you're going to have to keep refreshing it, and maybe you can start booking it at mid-morning if you don't need any more lightning lanes for Animal Kingdom.
Yep.
It depends on if you prioritize wanting to get on the safari without any lines.
Right. And we'll have
That's
to
your
see how
big
those
thing.
lines are and stuff like that. But yeah,
Kali
so-
River Rapids is not going to be big at that time of the year, but the safari is going to be like the next biggest.
yeah, so that'll be my big thing is trying to when do we flip to doing the.
And that's
Mickey
where
Minis.
staring at your phone all
I
day is
know.
going to come in, and the stress and anxiety of like, when do I make the switch? Like this whole conversation is going to go in your head 1,000 times in a
I
day
know.
as you're like,
You're
trying
like
to
you're
figure
saying,
this
do I risk it? Do I do the safari and then risk and then not get one for Mickey and Minnie's, or do I just say
out.
that's the priority? So we'll see. Like I said, we're trying to focus on what are the priorities, and then so I think if I'm iffy, I go with what the priority is.
Yep.
So then our last day is Monday, where we are going to Epcot, and we do have plans to, if we want to, we could hop either to Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom, like kind of mid-afternoon, just to hit up things maybe we didn't get to or we want to do again. But the focus for the day is Epcot. So looking at the return times, it seems like the best bet or the best bet to get an early return time with Genie Plus is to try it for Frozen and then rope drop Remy.
Where are you coming in? Are you going to try to come in through the international?
No,
gateway?
we'll be at the front of the park.
Okay, so that's what you're doing. That's going to be tough, right?
Yeah, I know.
Coming from CBR, we rope drop Remy's. We basically walked onto that attraction. So we got a lightning lane for Remy's for like mid-morning, spamming it at 7:00. So we got to ride it twice, which was cool because we haven't been on the ride yet. But if you're coming through the international gateway, you rope drop Remy's, you probably lightning lane test track, and you walk right over to Frozen. Go through Remy's, go to Frozen, and you're buzzing in for test track right away, and you get everything done within the first literally 40 minutes of being in the park, and then you're just virtual queuing for Guardians.
Yeah, so that's a big thing too. Is how do we split up who's doing the virtual queue versus who's doing the Genie Plus? And I was hoping by now the virtual queues would all be like no issue to get. It seems like there's some days it lasts plenty of time. Some days it's going in seconds. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out. We're probably also going to get an individual lightning lane for it because first chance to ride. So
yeah,
we'll see.
That's a different thing for you guys. I would definitely individual lightning. I will not be individual lightning laning Guardians unless we just can't get on, but they've been selling out pretty quickly. It all depends on how we do it. We have 2 Epcot days, so we're going to get chances to virtual queue it. I will not prioritize. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, my strategy for Epcot might change. If we manage to hit up all the big rides, like the first Epcot day type of thing, the priority changes of what we want to do the second day type of thing. We'll maybe take it more easy. Maybe we don't rope drop at all. Maybe we sleep in, that type of thing. But we'll figure that out as we go along. Speaking of Epcot, though, and ADRs, they changed the rules for ADRs. So cancellation's not 24 hours anymore. It's within 2 hours. And that's going to screw me over for trying to get my ADRs last minute. So I am going to do go up as soon as we're over there by Norway, I'm going to go up to the front and say, if it's open anyway in the morning. I'm like, hey, can we get on a waiting list for...
Well, they have it in the app too, right? The virtual waiting list.
Do they? Is that only available for the day of? When you go and do that?
Okay. Yeah, day
I haven't
of.
seen that.
You try to get on the wait list that way. And then I guess instead of just like the dump kind of the day before where everyone was canceling before the 24-hour notice, I guess people will be canceling throughout so you kind of almost have to keep checking during the day, right, for a cancellation or whatever. But
that's relatively easy on the app, and I'm not sweating it. Epcot is the least stressful Genie Plus day. So is Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, well, at least like you said, it's those 3 big things, and you get what you get, and you work around it, and then everything else is not a problem. So again, it is what it is, you know.
You're going to be in your element, my guy. I mean, like it's like Disney planning on the fly, right?
Yeah.
You've been training your whole life for this moment. That's basically what it comes down to, right? Yeah, get those thumbs stretched out, right? Like, you know, you got to be ready for changing your plans, knowing like what's going to benefit veterans of the system. If you're truly trying to maximize Genie Plus and not just using it to have, you know, whatever, is you have to know logistics, especially when you're hopping. How long does it take me to leave the park, get on a bus, travel to, like, knowing that it's a 20-minute hit for, you know, waiting for a bus, 20 minutes for transport, 10 minutes to walk into the park, like to be able to schedule things properly. Knowing all the logistics of everything help you really organize things, and it can drive you mad. So the more you practice, the more you look at the data, kind of get an idea of this. There's a lot here, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a whole show here because it's hard to do this without visuals. Because most of our people are listeners, they're not viewers. If you have any questions, this is where Discord comes into play. If you want to really know how to use Thrill Data and how to organize this, and you really want to be a competitive Genie Plus user, I guess, whatever you want to call it, everybody could give you tips and hints on Discord and know how to use Thrill Data and stuff like that. And we won't go too much more in depth with all that kind of fun stuff. All right, we're gonna skip our top 3. I think, because we can save this for the next month. Because we were going to use this top 3 holidays you want to spend at Walt Disney World and why. But because we're already long, I wanted to get to the DVC engagement because a lot of people have had some really cool answers, and I want to share what the community considers like their special thing. So, what do they like to do, Phil?
Yeah. So as a reminder for everyone, this is something that you feel like you have to do every time you go to Walt Disney World that isn't food, an attraction, or a show. So kind of something else. And so you want to do the community first and then add in ours?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So first I got some responses on Facebook. So Susie Marie posted that I always take a picture of my room number, which I think is an interesting one. And I actually, when I thought about it, I think we always do that as well. I don't know if it's like a tradition, but we always just do so I remember it.
Well, we were putting in our room request for where we wanted to stay because we wanted to stay relatively close to where I'm like, what room did we have?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm scrolling through my pictures. I had to have taken a picture of my, nope, I didn't take one. So I thought I always did, but I didn't.
Cindy Tag said that she stays on Main Street until she hears the song "Let Me Call You My Sweetheart" as one of the songs being played on Main Street, because her grandpa used to sing it to her all the time, and that it's usually something that they hear fairly early on in the day. So that's one of her
That's awesome.
traditions.
That's like a hidden like how to start your day. It's not like
Yeah,
watching the parade or watching the opening ceremonies or doing. It's just like something that you could just see somebody standing on the side of the road, kind of just either on their phone or just kind of sitting around. And you're like, oh, what are they doing? They're waiting for somebody. They're wasting time. No, they're waiting for this
their
song to
song. Yeah.
play because that is awesome. I love that one.
And then Steve Gittler commented that we always visit the monorail hotels and browse the shops in each of them.
Oh, that's interesting. Disney likes hearing that.
Yeah. So on Discord, got a lot of response as well. So Doxy said that she always has to take a picture in front of the castle. She said, I have God knows how many, but I guess it chronicles that I was there. So I always have to get one of those. I think a lot of people have to get their photo with the castle,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's the main one. Obviously, that's why they have 1,000 photographers up Main Street. It would be interesting if people had to do a specific place on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
We're never consistent in where we stay. My one tradition to kind of focus on this is we always make T-shirts, at least matching T-shirts. So all of our pictures have like a monocolor T-shirt with a design on it. So the kids wear these T-shirts every single day. So we kind of mark. We could tell how old the kids are based on the T-shirts they wore because they're basically like tags for our vacation. That's a good one.
Yep. And going through some others. So Eulilin had a list. She said they always go to the partner statue and thank Uncle Walt. They leave Animal Kingdom by using the suspension bridge at the Oasis, which I didn't even know that was a thing. I had to look it up on a map. I'm like, where is that? So that's something I might try to do. Yeah, so it's obviously the island that you kind of have to cross different ways, and I guess one of the ways is more of like a suspension bridge.
Huh.
Although from what I looked at, it looked like sometimes it was closed and stuff like that, but I might look into that a little bit.
Check it out.
If we could do that this time. She always has to pull the rope next to the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, which for any of you who have never done that, I'm not going to give away what happens when you do it, but just there's a rope that kind of goes down into a pit. Pull on the rope and see what happens. She has to walk through the tea caddy shop in the UK in Epcot. So even if I never buy anything, I love that store. And also walking through the Morocco Pavilion. And if possible, she tries to go on the ferry in the morning and take the monorail at the end of a Magic Kingdom day.
Oh, get all that transportation in. I like it.
Yeah. So Gene L and a few people kind of posted these types of things, just sitting at different park benches and people watching. Like take a few minutes to half hour, whatever it is, kind of relax and just sort of enjoy watching other people enjoying themselves in the park. TL Madden mentioned he has to take up a holding up the ball photo at Epcot. So one of those where somebody stands and the photographer is a little further back and it makes it look like they're holding up the spaceship Earth. And also has to get a souvenir penny for his son. Ryan W. posted they have to go to Sir Mickey's because they love seeing Willie the Giant and how the store kind of reminds them of a 90s Disney mall store. And also mentioned about sitting on a bench, but specifically mentioned on Sunset Boulevard to listening to the music there in Hollywood Studios, which Janelle said she also has to do. And apparently said or at least that's what her husband always does. And she said, if I can't find him, that's where he'll be. He'll be sitting on a bench there in Hollywood Studios. Or in Epcot, he'd be waiting in a bench listening to the band play in the UK.
I love the crossroads of Sunset Boulevard there.
Yeah.
Because we sat there a little bit out of the rain last year, and to me that's like the best part of the park from a thematic point of view.
Yeah.
Once elsewhere, it's a giant mess unless you go.
In the lands is okay, but yeah, the wandering out the other areas of the park is a mess.
Yeah, it's not good. But I love sitting there with like a margarita or something, hanging out, and the kids are eating ice cream. Maybe we could just like people watch and enjoy the moment. So
exactly.
I'm down for that one. I like that.
So what other ones do you have that you need to do?
So I don't have a long list. Yulin has 5 of them. I've got one. We have a picture that we take, and we took this by accident. I think back in 2017, we did our first one where we have the kids standing on the curb of the fence right outside the Crystal Palace, looking at Cinderella's castle. And I took a shot back from it. It's just their back, and you can see the kids' heights and stuff like that. So we see them grow. And then we added my youngest, and we tried taking another picture last time. We were successful, but I was taking it too close to them. So there's going to be some variance. I have to get practice about perspective on it. But that's one thing that I like to do because it's just a random picture I took one day that I really liked. I got a really big blow up version of it in our Disney picture wall, and we've got every single version of it. So that's kind of like one of those things that like people like to post pictures of their kids at certain ages growing up. You're going to see all that as long as we're going. So I think that's the one picture that we have to do. But I don't have any other traditions that I have to do other than that one.
Yeah, the two that came to mind is one, we always have to get a ride on the monorail in some form. To us, that's just screams Disney and the connections back to Walt and everything like that. And my son just loves it. Like when he was younger, we would do just like loops around the Magic Kingdom, like on the monorail. So we've had trips where, if we were staying at Caribbean Beach where we didn't really necessarily need to use the monorail, we've actually gone like out of Epcot and done a monorail like there and back just to get our monorail ride in. And then the other thing is I always love to wander some part of World Showcase, not necessarily buying anything. I mean, usually I'll probably have an adult beverage with me, but just to kind of take in the scenes, like Eulin mentioned, wandering the Morocco Pavilion, things like that, where you can kind of almost get lost a little bit inside the theme park, and they can feel a little bit of a break from all the hectic stuff. So those are the two things that came to mind for me. Although once other people mentioned things like, taking a photo of their room and stuff, is like, I do that too. So yeah, lots of things.
Well, I mean, it means something to them. Like we all take pictures of our room, but we just take it because we're on vacation. We got to take pictures, right? It tells the story, but they take it specifically, which I think is pretty cool. So I like having my kids are getting old enough now where I can go to my daughter and she can start remembering things. And, it's this some of these things have been delayed a couple of years, but I'm looking forward to what things are in the future. I had a funny story with my daughter. She's putting on a Thanksgiving concert for everybody. And she's getting her younger brother and sister doing dances, and she's setting up raffles and all this other type of stuff. Point of the story is she's got a planner that she got for school or something else like that. And she has like all these things planned. I'm like, that's a future Disney planner right there. She's got like minute by minute days and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, she's going to be planning the next Disney vacation. So she's following in her father's footsteps. Next week, this is a big one. This is already happening. We talked a lot about this already, but we'll talk about this more as we get more information. Next week, we're going to be talking about, or this week, we're going to be talking about what do you want most to see change at the parks with IGER back? What would you like to see rolled back or move forward with? Now, in parentheses, you put within reason. You can't just say, I want the dining plan back. You're not going to get the dining plan because there's not enough places for people to eat at this point, right?
And they'll be like, oh, he's getting rid of Genie Plus or cutting all the the park prices are being cut in half, like nothing, things that aren't really going to happen. But what are small rollback things that you would like to see happen over time that you think is realistic for Bob to do?
No one's allowed to say park reservations to be gone. Those like all these structural things aren't going. Then again, they're getting rid of Harmonious, which is a structural thing. So maybe something like this would happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think something like that. You could say that. I mean, just don't expect it. But
right. That being said, guys, have a great holiday weekend. If you're here in the States and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. And the sentiment to the rest of the world, be thankful for what you have in these somewhat trying times. And thanks for listening and watching. And we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.